The Head Coach Isaac Collins Show. Here's Dan Flickinger and Seton Hill Head Coach Isaac Collins.
We continue live Griffins Game Day on the Westmoreland Sports Network. It is homecoming here at Seton Hill University, as we talked about earlier. As we welcome you back to Offutt Field, it is time to talk with the second-year head coach of the Seton Hill Griffins, Isaac Collins, and the Coach Collins Show. And Coach, a big win for you guys last week at Lock Haven. A tough second quarter, but certainly a great opening drive, and you guys rebounded in the second half. Defense played great, and the offense was able to do enough with Dan Pietrangelo coming in and moving the offense well. Just your thoughts about the victory last week at Lock Haven?
Well, I think it was a big victory. Anytime you take a young football team on the road, it's different. There's no comfort level for the young players, so they really had to kind of adjust to a different locker room, a smaller space, coming out a different entrance, warming up on a different field. And, we always stress to them that, the field's still going to be 100 yards wherever we play. There's still going to be a scoreboard at one end, but you never know how they're going to react. And I really was excited about the way our kids warmed up. It was almost like they were able to block out the elements being up on that mountain and the beautiful view, and they kind of focused on what was going on inside the line. So hopefully something we can definitely build on, and that's something that has me excited as a head coach.
Well, let's talk about the opening drive as we revisit the 27-16 win against Lock Haven last week. You drive at 74 yards, a couple of big pass plays on the drive. One to Logan Carnes, his first ever collegiate catch as a freshman. And then Drew hooks up with Eric Brown on a really nice 25-yard touchdown pass. And then the catch by Brown was pretty nice, too, in the end zone.
Well, you couldn't script it any better. I mean, coming out, we talk about, getting off to a fast start. And there's no doubt when you can put points on the board in your first drive, it sets the table and it gets the defense excited, gets special teams going. It really kind of gives you a big boost, and we certainly felt like that was the case.
Talk about Logan Carnes too, Coach. 4 catches, 66 yards last week, and a big catch on that opening drive. It seemed like he's been getting a little bit more playing time. I know we're still only in week 3 of the season, but it seems like he's been getting a little bit more playing time as we move forward.
Well, he definitely has, and I shared with you in earlier interviews that just the fact that he's a local guy, the fact that he was here all summer training with our upperclassmen, and then you go through the number of snaps he was able to get during training camp. I jokingly tell him all the time. I say to all the freshmen are playing for, stop acting like a freshman. And they kind of look at me like, but I am. So from that standpoint, that's one of the the major reasons why we're so excited about recruiting locally, because it helps you. I mean, his learning curve is went way up in his freshman year, and he's understanding better, and I think he's only going to get better as the season goes on. So was definitely excited to see him get his first catch, and hopefully that's one of many.
You guys are up 7-0 as, again, you take the opening drive and punch it in the end zone. The defense forces a couple of turnovers. The offense didn't have great field position and really couldn't do anything with it. Lock Haven scores at the beginning of the second quarter and adds a 42-yard field goal with 2:16 to go. And it's 10-7 at halftime. Lock Haven scores twice. Talk about how the offense was stalemated a little bit, couldn't really capitalize on those turnovers, didn't really have that good field position. I know it's up to them to kind of reverse the field position and at least get some first downs, but offense a little bit stalemated in the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, we were just off rhythm, and it's about consistency, and anytime you look at this system, it's no different than wherever they're running it, whether it's Oregon or Texas Tech. It really is about being able to move the sticks, and me and you have had conversations about how important it is to, at the end of the day, to be in that 28, 29, 31 first downs, and we just haven't been able to do that. We're showing that we can hit the big play. We really worked this week on trying to make sure that we can move the sticks and staying on track. And part of being off track was penalties, blown assignments, a couple TFLs on their part, and they did a great job defensively. They ran around, they played hard, so it wasn't a case where we were lining up against no one. I mean, I really felt that defensively they had a good game plan for what we were trying to do. And the thing that had me excited was, even though we had that slow start, our guys really kind of kept pushing the envelope and hanging in there, and that's really what you need when you're a young football team, because I think the time is going to come. As you get a few more games under your belt, hopefully a lot of those mistakes and penalties start to go away.
First play of the second half, Spicer Alani recovers, actually forces a fumble, and Josh Valatovich, who you'll be hearing from in just a couple of moments, jumps on the ball. You guys get the ball with great field position. Again, the first play of the second half at Lock Haven's 39-yard line. And on the first play, Drew tries to go up top. He gets hit as he throws, kind of a wobbly pass, and Lock Haven makes an interception.
Yeah, he took a shot on that and, got up a little bit slow. And, one of the things that we felt was obviously, you want to capitalize on a turnover. Certainly you want to at least get a couple first downs and tilt the field a little bit. And I think he pressed a little bit on that particular play and, had the turnover. So between getting hit and pressing, we just felt it was time to maybe try to go in a different direction, at least for this game, and kind of figure out what's going to be the next step as you go forward. So brought Dan in really because, Dan's done a good job in practice, and we said, let's give him a shot, and, he was able to make some things happen.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you, Coach. Lock Haven is forced to punt. Defense does another great job of forcing them to punt on a 3-and-out, and then you do decide to bring in Dan. Just from performing well in practice, just talk about the feeling and why you decided to bring in Pietrangelo at that point.
Well, we recruited, we really wanted to bring in a transfer quarterback to go along with Drew. We're very excited about what we think Christian Strong, our redshirt freshman quarterback, is going to bring. But, putting a quarterback that's that young into the fire early, we don't think is in the best interest of our program. So we, went out and made a concerted effort to find a guy that was running a similar system, a guy that, we felt could come in and complement Drew, and if anything happened to Drew, he'd be ready to go, or vice versa. If it's a case where Drew's not performing at the level that we think he should, having a guy that you can put in there and not have to put it on a freshman's shoulder was something that we were very conscious of. So going into the season, we knew in the back of our minds there was a chance that Dan could play a little bit for us, as well as being able to complement Drew.
So you guys are still trailing 10-7, and Dan comes in. You guys move the ball 10 plays. You have a first down and goal at the 5-yard line, again trailing by 3. And unfortunately, you get stopped on 4 plays. You go forward on 4th down, and you couldn't quite punch it in to the end zone. Can you kind of take me through the kind of how it played out there?
Well, I think a little bit of it is having some youth in the backfield. A little bit of it is young offensive line. We certainly had some seams that the backs missed, and then on one of them in particular, they got a little bit of penetration, which you don't want to allow down there. So for us, we were confident that we missed a bad opportunity, but we knew it was the right decision. You're on the road, you don't want to leave anything on the table, and we felt like it was critical that if we could have got a touchdown there, it was going to open the door for us to be able to get a lead and hopefully start to move in the other direction.
And again, I'm sure you also felt that instead of going for the field goal there, for instance, you go forward on 4th and goal. If you don't get it, then the defense is going to get the ball back to you. And it worked out because they did. They held Lock Haven to a 3-and-out. You guys drive back down 9 plays, 40 yards, and this time Khalil Howard on 4th down and goal plunges into the end zone. Jesser actually misses the extra point, so it's 13-10 at that point. But good resiliency showed by the offense there.
Yeah, absolutely. When they were coming off, I told them, hey, just get something to drink, get ready to go back. Defense has got to get a stop. And that's what we talked to our defense about. It's an opportunity for us. When we take the field to get the ball back. Their defense made a great play. Now let's step up and get a 3-and-out, get our offense back moving, get them back on the field, and see what can happen.
So it's 13-10 in the third quarter. Again, the defense holds Lock Haven to a 3-and-out. And then one of the best returns I certainly have seen all year by Malik Scott. He takes it at his own 49-yard line. And as I said on the broadcast, I thought he was down. You kind of lost him in the shuffle in the group there. And all of a sudden he pops away from the pile and runs for a 51-yard touchdown on the punt return. Just a terrific return by the freshman, huh?
It was a great return. I was so excited for him. He's a great kid. He does that a lot in practice, and when we're in scrimmage situations, like our guys come up, he's a big kid for a freshman, man. He's a strong kid. He runs hard, and a lot of times our DBs will have him wrapped up, and all of a sudden you'll look up and he's running down the sideline. So it wasn't a surprise he was able to break the tackle, but what I was pleased with was the number of blocks that were thrown afterwards. A lot of times it's kind of a shock scramble, and now someone pushes them out of bounds, but if you watch the film, a couple of our guys peeled back and chipped some guys off and really got them into the zone, so it was great.
I know you mentioned in the postgame too, Coach, how important that was. Do you think that almost served as a back-breaking score for you? I know at the time you can't think that way, but looking back at it, how important that punt return was at that point?
Well, I don't know if it was back-breaking as much as it energized us. I think it really kind of gave our guys a confidence. Okay, now we're in a position, you got a couple score lead. Let's find a way to put them away now. And that's, really what we're trying to get our football team to in terms of understanding that there's certain points in the game that you got to take over. The plays were there to be made, and Malik happened to make one.
After Malik made that play, Lockhaven again was forced to punt. He actually muffed the next return. Lockhaven recovered it, but as the defense had done all game long, they hold Lockhaven to a field goal attempt, which they miss, and then that was a missed opportunity for them, but certainly another great stand by the defense.
Well, it was great because there was no points exchanged, so for Malik, it was just, like in practice, I dropped the punt. For him, he was relieved because obviously he was very disappointed in himself, and I told the defense immediately, I said, that's what you do as a good football team. If someone makes a mistake, you cover it up, and I thought they did a great job of holding them to no points and getting our offense back the ball.
Brent Blaharczyk added a touchdown. Lockhaven also scored one of their own to set the final at 27-16. Coach, we talked about the defense, but I have to ask you how excited you were and pleased you were with the running game last week. Kind of got on track. Brandon Stout had over 80 yards, and you got the ball to a couple of other guys, Patrick Jackson, Khalil Howard. Brent Blaharczyk ran well when he was able to last week. Can you kind of talk about the running game and how it seems like it's getting on track?
Well, I think it's critical. I think there's no doubt that one of the issues we've had since I've been here is we've been one-dimensional. And we talked about it, in previous shows, and we talked about it last year, and really kind of in the off season. It was important to us to be able to find a way to establish the run game. I think when you can run the football, it opens so many other things up. And we feel like we got some talented receivers. We feel like we got some talented running backs. And if we can be balanced, and if we can have a run game that's a threat, now all of a sudden there's not so much too high safeties. They're going to have to load the box a little bit. Now that creates some matchups and some one-on-ones where you got a chance to hit some explosive plays down the field. So certainly from our perspective coming into the game, we talked a lot about, being able to dictate, let's run the football and we want to run it. Let's throw it when we want to throw it. Let's not find ourselves like we did in that first half, behind the stick. So now all of a sudden you're throwing to try and get out of trouble instead of being able to turn around and hand the ball to a stable of pretty good running backs.
Yeah, we mentioned too, Brandon seemed like he got a lot of carries on the first drive, maybe not as many in the first half after that, and then it seems like you really went back to him in the second half. Was that something you guys discussed at halftime, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely felt like, the game was not out of reach. We really needed to make sure that we were putting, him in a position where he could make some plays, and we got to get him going. It's a long season. Mm-hmm. We got some really tough games coming up, and our feeling is that, he's got to be our workhorse for us. So we definitely wanted to get him the ball and really allow our run game to kind of settle down our pass game.
Well, at any level, anytime you bring in the backup quarterback and he performs well, I guess the big question leading up to the following game will be who will be getting the snaps to start out at least at Offutt Field here tonight. Will it be Dan Pietrangelo? Will it be Drew Jackson? And just talk about what went into the decision here tonight, Coach.
We're going to go with Dan. He's kind of earned the right. I think he energized the offense, had the guys excited in the locker room, made some big plays with his feet. We're going to play against a very good defense tonight, and certainly felt like Dan would be the best option to start off with, and we'll see how the game plays out and whether or not we get Drew some snaps at some point.
We're going to be talking once again with Josh Valatovich coming up. I got to ask you about him and also Phil Moreland, two guys that played very well last week in the defensive backfield for you. Can you talk about those two guys' performance against Lockhaven?
I couldn't be prouder of those two guys. They've done an outstanding job since the day one that I stepped on this campus. They really have been working their tails off to help this football program get to where we feel it needs to be, and they're showing in their play. And I think one of the things that you're seeing is in off season. I mean, those guys really worked hard in the winter and put themselves in a position where they've started to change their body. They're stronger players, they're faster players. So definitely very, very excited to watch them continue to develop as the season goes on. But it was a great stepping stone because they were a big part of getting this program a big win early in the season.
Another guy, too, we had Cole Fry 2 weeks ago getting his first interception as a defensive lineman, who I asked Sapp about. And now you have Donato Clemente, who had pretty darn good coverage on Lockhaven's touchdown that they had in the first half. And he had his first interception as a freshman, so that's pretty nice to see.
Yeah, it's exciting. I got to give a shout out to those upstate New York Section 5 guys. I played in Section 5, so certainly very, very pleased. And it's a great story when we recruited him because his high school coach was actually my college coach. He was the recruiter, I should say, that recruited me to the University of Rochester. Cool. So I know what he's made of because I know how tough he was on us and the type of program he's running at Aquinas, and they've done a great job winning some state titles. So he comes from good stock, as they say.
Yeah. Of course, you have to say that, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the stock you came from. a little bit of reshuffling on the offensive line. Unfortunately, Darius Joe Carzada will not play tonight. I know William Wright is maybe a game time decision. He's questionable. Can you talk about the reshuffling on the offensive line? An offensive line coach that has not given up a sack, which I wanted to ask you about that too this year, but the reshuffling and how pleased you've been not only in the running game, but no sacks through 2 games after, I think, leading the PSAC in sacks allowed last year.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, for the number of times we've thrown the football, it's great that we haven't given up a sack. Hopefully we can keep that going tonight. It'll be certainly tested versus a very good defensive line and a defense that can bring some pressure. For us, it's going to be trying to figure out the pieces as we go this game, because we got some guys that are kind of playing in positions they're not used to. I thought the week of practice was very solid. I think the intent will be there. We just got to focus on how we get the execution done. So I know Coach Eager's done some different things offensively to try and help protect some of those guys and hopefully get us to a situation where we can be competitive and in a position to win this game. And then hopefully as we get healthy, this game will be a stepping stone for us being able to develop some depth, because some guys definitely are going to have to play before they're ready.
Sometimes it's tough to notice offensive linemen standing out sometimes, unless it's for holding penalties and those types of things. But Ryan Long seemed to stand out on some plays to me last week. Can you talk about his progress? I know he kind of beat out Adam Ward for that right tackle spot. I know Adam's been so banged up throughout his career. But how has Ryan progressed here? I know he's another young player for you.
Yeah, he's done a great job. I mean, all those young guys up front have done a tremendous job. I mean, I don't think folks understand how hard it is to play as a freshman in the O-line. I mean, probably about as hard as it is to play quarterback. Mm-hmm. So for what those guys have done, the way that they developed, and again, I credit the fact that they were here with the upperclassmen this summer, going through the drills, understanding Coach Eager's done a great job of coaching those guys up. But the biggest thing that I like about our young kids is the toughness. I mean, and that's really what you need inside your program. They don't back down. They're not afraid. They're going to fight and claw and scratch for every inch, which that's where it starts. And if they start doing it, then all of a sudden it trickles over to the wide receivers, trickles over to the DBs, the guys that are typically the prima donnas on your team. So I'm very excited about that, and just the fact that they're so young and where they're at now. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they develop in the coming years.
Yeah, certainly. Adam Polakowski, one of the other young guys at left guard. Penn Trafford, a local kid, he was here during the summer as well. As coach has been talking about guys being here when they're local. Let's talk about the Westchester team, Coach. Weapons really all over the place. Certainly one of the top teams in the country, ranked in the top 10. What impresses you the most about Westchester, seeing them on film, and a team that I'm sure you're very familiar with, of course, Westchester being close to Widener when you were there for 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I know Coach Swan very well. Actually, his offensive coordinator, who's his son, worked for me when I was at Widener, so got a relationship there. But I have the utmost respect for just what he's done with that program, and where Westchester was prior to his arrival, the job he did at Widener as a head football coach, getting them to the Elite Eight and doing some amazing things, and then obviously taking Westchester to the Final Four last year is very, very impressive. They've done a great job recruiting. I think they got a great eye for talent, and obviously I'm aware of a lot of those guys because they were on our wish list at Widener when I was there. And watching them on film, you don't see a lot of weaknesses, and you see a football team that's getting better. And I think it starts with their quarterback, who I had the privilege of being able to every Wednesday when I was at Widener for 3 years, sit into press conferences with Coach Juan, and he would talk about his team. I'd talk about our team, and just listening to him talk about his quarterback, those first few years when he was kind of a young and still wet behind the ears.
He's been there for a while, Coach, right? Because I think he got redshirted twice.
Yes.
So this is actually, I think, his 6th season there.
He's definitely working on his master's degree. So, but a phenomenal football player. He makes the offense go. They got tremendous skilled kids. They lose arguably one of the best running backs at Division II level, and they got 2 other guys that jump right in that have been waiting their turn. The receivers, tremendous speed. Offensive line, big and physical. Defensively, they get after you up front. Their D-line plays hard, high motors. Got one of the best linebackers in the PSAC. So they have so many weapons. All-American corner. So every turn, when you're looking for matchups, there aren't a lot that are going to work in your favor. So I think for our guys, it's going to be kind of old school football. We're going to have to take care of the football and do some of those little things to help us against a very, very talented football team, and they're ranked in the top 10 for a reason.
Yeah, Coach, that's my final question to you. Just your keys to victory, what you guys have to do, again, against one of the best teams in the country here tonight, which I'm sure feeding off the crowd early on would be nice, too, because, again, we had a nice crowd for Shippensburg at Offutt Field, and here tonight, another evening game, homecoming. I'm sure that energy will be there. Feeding off that early might be important.
I think it's going to be huge, and we talked to our players all week about using this to your advantage. They have to come across the state. There has to be something in it at some point in the game that's going to creep in. Usually when teams have to travel that far early on in the game, if you can get some things done, get some things established, and get them off their game while they're trying to get their feet underneath them, is probably your best time to strike a really good football team. But we shared with our guys all along that this is why you came to Seton Hill. This is why we're in the PSAC, is to play games like this. And very few times in life do you get a chance to play against a top 10 team. Certainly from a coaching staff standpoint, our feeling is we're going to be able to get a great evaluation of where we're at as a football program and how much further we got to go to get to where we need to be. But I think our kids are excited. I think we've had a solid to good week of practice. We've had to shuffle some pieces around, with some guys being injured. But I'm really excited just to kind of watch them go out and play in front of a really good crowd. And hopefully for us, we play well enough to put ourselves in a position where in the fourth quarter we can compete for winning this game.
Well, Coach, it was only a year ago where another nationally ranked team, IUP, came in here last year. And you guys, if it wasn't for the injuries at quarterback, perhaps you would have had the upset there. It was only 2-0 IUP at halftime. So I'm sure those guys might look back at that game and say, why not us?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think there's confidence in the bunch. I think the win on Saturday was huge for our guys just because it hasn't happened for some of the older guys to get a win this early in the season. So they've tasted it. Now it's a case where, okay, do you want to taste it again? So if we go out and execute and we do our part, I think, we'll have a chance to, maybe spring the upset here.
Appreciate your time as always, Coach. We'll talk to you at halftime and then on the postgame.
Look forward to it.
That is Coach Isaac Collins, second year here at Seton Hill University. Coming up next on Griffin's Game Day, we continue to break it down for you, Seton Hill and Westchester, as we talk with Josh Valatovich, who had a big week last week in Seton Hill's victory over Lock Haven. We continue live on Griffin's Game Day, brought to you by Three Rivers Orthopedic here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.